In a season with so many game releases, it's a foregone conclusion that some of these games are just going to be swept under the rug due to the gravitas of games like Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, and Fallout 76, just to name a few. Even franchises with a long lineage like Tomb Raider didn't fare all too well. It looks like Shadow of the Tomb Raider wasn't the biggest commercial success, and even upcoming games like Battlefield 5, another game with a gigantic history attached to it, doesn't seem to really have a ton of anticipation. Now, in the case of Battlefield 5, there's an entirely different story attached to that, and we won't delve into that in this video, but it is a little bit worrying to me outside of those games how a game with a lot of potential but little awareness like Call of Cthulhu will do. I'm gonna do my attempt in remedying that latter problem because we are coming up on the release of RDR2 and Call of Cthulhu releasing just a few days after. I can see why the anticipation really isn't there, but this could be one of the better RPGs of 2018. Now, if you don't know, this game is actually inspired by Lovecraft's short story The Call of Cthulhu, while also being a direct adaptation of the 1981 RPG of the same name. Obviously, being nearly a 40-year differential between the release of the games, you can expect presentation to be quite a bit different. The game itself is being developed by a studio known as Cyanide, not the most well-known studio in the world, but they do actually have a bit of history on working on other notable games, including both Styx titles, Space Hulk Deathwing, and the Game of Thrones RPG that was released on last generation consoles. But now comes their next game, Call of Cthulhu, set in 1924. Private investigator Edward Pierce is sent to investigate the tragic death of the Hawkins family in their imposing mansion on the isolated Darkwater Island. That's located just off the shores of Boston. Between unfriendly locals and dubious police reports, it becomes clear there's more to the case than meets the eye. Soon enough, Pierce is plunged into a terrifying world of conspiracies, cultists, and cosmic horrors. Faced with terrors beyond standard human comprehension, you as Edward need to delve into the secrets that lay beneath the surface of Darkwater Island community. You'll speak with a wide array of inhabitants, overcome deadly horrors, and discover cryptic clues, all in a desperate attempt to expose the terrible truth at the heart of this Hawkins case. This will be a very story-driven experience, and it looks like there's a lot of layers to this story, so if you're into your gripping narratives with a lot of twists and turns, that's what you're probably gonna find here. The fundamentals of the story are already in place, it really just depends on how Cyanide fleshes it out. Now, I just mentioned the name Edward Pierce. He is, of course, the main character in Call of Cthulhu, and he's just a private investigator, and that's one of the elements I really appreciate about this game based on what I've seen. His specialty is being a PI. He's not a fighter, and that's why the game is gonna have you find solutions to your problems that won't always directly end with a fist fight or gunning down individuals, because guess what? That's not his style. That should once again add a layer to the overall complexity of Call of Cthulhu. And the character of Pierce goes beyond that. He's a multifaceted character coming right off the Great War that kept him in a period of stress, and he still remains in a very fragile mental state. He's an alcoholic too, so that definitely won't help, and his sanity plays a huge part in how he experiences this harsh world. It's up to the player to find out ways to protect him from these dangers, but some truths only reveal themselves to a mind that lets them in. I think you can see the complexity of Pierce shine through again, and as a character goes, he has some of the most potential in being one of the best leads in a video game because he doesn't seem like a cookie-cutter character. There's actually quite a bit of depth here. Again, that's just analyzing it from a surface standpoint. We'll see how that depth is fleshed out, and that's really on Cyanide to deliver on that end, but what I'm seeing so far from a character standpoint has a lot of potential. Now, I also have to say, recently taking a deeper look at Call of Cthulhu, the first thing I thought about in regards to the game was some resemblance to Vampire, a vampire-themed RPG released earlier this year. This game is actually put out by the same publisher and Focus Home Interactive, of course. Developers do vary. Again, this game is being done by Cyanide. Vampire was done by Don't Nod Entertainment. Even funnier, however, is one resemblance to Vampire that becomes strikingly apparent is when you listen to the game and its main character of Edward Pierce. He sounds a lot like Jonathan Reed from that game. I do believe they have the same voice actor, although there isn't actually any definitive information online, so just take that as a cool little nugget. But if you played Vampire and you listen to Call of Cthulhu, there's already a lot of gameplay out of it, and when you hear Edward Pierce talk, definitely gives some vibes of Jonathan Reed, and I did really enjoy Vampire, so to me, that is a positive. But beyond that, Call of Cthulhu does have a generally mysterious and ominous vibe going on for it. This is a game where, yes, we will make several different choices that will without a doubt increase replayability, but at the same time, given what we've seen thus far, it looks like all of the conversational options have been very fleshed out. It kind of needs to be, because a sense of natural investigation is a big component of the game, and you're gonna talk to characters to learn their secrets or look around on your own. A friendly ally may provide a much needed distraction or reveal a path to progress, but that isn't the only route you can go. You you also have the option of picking a lock or stealing a key that is equally as viable. With a more story-driven experience like what Call of Cthulhu is aiming for, a huge focal point of the game will of course be its presentation, from things like art direction, ambiance, voice acting, etc. Based on what I've seen so far, and a sizable amount of gameplay is already out, Cyanide really nailed that. The voice acting is superb, and while the visuals aren't anything to write home about from a technical sense, it does a good job of setting that tone that the game is going for. Sound direction seems stellar too, and while you won't be hearing thundering orchestrals, that's a good thing. That would be totally out of place in this game, and again, that's another element that's light, but it does a good job adding to the overall tone that the game is going for. Just do bear in mind that this is a game that is light on the high-octane gameplay. It's a more subtle experience where it's more about world building, character development, quality writing, and all of those things I can definitely appreciate in a game like this. That's essentially the information I can give you about the game. I don't imagine Call of Cthulhu will fare all too well from a commercial standpoint, and that probably comes down to being more of a timing issue, coming a few days after the release of Red Dead Redemption 2. That's just going to inherently pose problems for a game that's already relatively niche. However, even if you don't have plans of picking this game up on day one, and by the way, it is being released on October 30th, do add it to your wishlist, observe how the reviews turn out, and maybe pick it up down the line if it goes on sale during the holiday season. Because I see a lot of potential here, and I wish the gaming community as a whole would see that potential too, but it's definitely there. And let us know what you think. Are you excited for Call of Cthulhu? Is this a game you already kept on your radar, or is this the first you're hearing about it? Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below, and thank you for watching, and goodbye.